Hi folks, just a content warning about this episode before we start. There are some mentions of self-harm and healthcare issues relating to gender dysphoria and women's health. If you feel you're impacted by any of the things that are mentioned in this episode, please do see the show notes where there are some links to some services that you should access. Thank you.
Welcome to Season 4 of the Coffee and Geography podcast. The aim of the show is to get to know, explore, and celebrate the diverse and intersectional range of people and their love for the world. Join your host, Kit Marie Rackley, and have fun exploring all the myriad of ways guests can connect their lives to geography. Today, let's listen to empathy through common struggles, electrolysis, facial hair stories, and the geography of healthcare. Got your brew ready? Great! Enjoy the listen.
Hello everybody, welcome to a very strange episode of the Coffee and Geography podcast. Disclaimer at the very start. I might sound a bit strange because I'm kind of grimacy. I've got some rictus. And I'll come back to that. Do you know what rictus is, Abby?
Do I know what rictus is?
It's going to come relevant later.
Okay, I've heard the word. I'm probably in my panic here. I'll go, oh yeah, I knew what that meant.
Yeah. But the reason is, everybody, is because I am currently laying horizontal on a medical bed, if you like.
You're on a couch.
I'm on a nice cozy couch with all these cushions, and I'm just chillaxing and relaxing. And you're going to hear a beep every now and then, and I'll explain what that is because I am in the middle of some electrolysis treatment for hair removal for my gender dysphoria. So, and I'm with the wonderful Abigail Best, who's my electrolysis. I don't know, what do we call you? Electrolysis technician, beauty technician? What do we call you?
Well, I'm an electrolysist, but if you're American, then maybe I'm an electrologist.
Okay, I didn't realise there were two different terms.
Well, there are, but we interchange them like vacuum and Hoover.
Oh, right.
You're having electroepilation, actually.
Okay, yeah.
But we all call it electrolysis.
Awesome. So, I mean, everybody in the podcast knows I have an American family, so I can make fun and say, you know, Americans, they do want to do cool things differently, don't they?
They do. But who knows? They might not be wrong.
Yeah. So, folks, we're giving this a go, and Abby has really, really kindly agreed to this to see how we go recording a podcast episode while I'm undergoing electrolysis. So yeah, it's going to sound pretty strange, but you know, we're all geographers. We like to do things a bit wacky and differently. So, as you're already aware, Abby, you know that the majority of people listening are probably educators, teachers, students, geographers on the loose term probably as well as the hard term.
Bless them. And got to listen to me.
But I've been undergoing treatment. Is this 10 hours or something? 11 or something?
Yeah, you're about 9.5 hours in. Yeah, out of 16, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, so, I'll try and make everything as geographically relevant as possible for our listeners.
We can geographicalise the face, can't we?
Yeah, actually, my previous guest, Elon Kelman, the author and professor of disaster management, he actually, I can't remember what he said, but he actually there's actually a word to mean the geography of the body.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite a complex word. So folks, hopefully you've listened to that episode by now and you say what he said, but there is actually a term for the geography of the body, which is really interesting.
I did not know that. I'd love to know what that is.
So Abigail Best is electrolysis and who does treatment both privately and on the NHS, which is how I came to you after my 3.5-year wait on the waiting list.
Yeah, talk about time.
Yeah. So Abby, we'll start with, now usually, because it's called Coffee and Geography, we usually talk about the drinks, but of course we're not drinking anything while you're zapping my face.
No.
So,
it's a bit impossible.
But do you have when you're not sticking an electrical needle into people's faces? Is there anything you like to drink, or are you a coffee drinker or a tea drinker?
Yeah, I'm probably an addict of coffee. Really, it's a good job. It doesn't hinder my work. Although I don't know. Yeah, coffee. I'd say. But I am sort of in remission-ish from about 10 cups a day down to 3. So.
I've never heard the word remission be associated with coffee before until now.
Well, I'm just trying to gloss over the fact that I drink way too much coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any particular coffee you go for?
Oh no, there's no. I'm not an aficionado or anything. The cheapest the better, but not quite too cheap. Like I don't want the floor sweepings, but instant mainly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then anything I can get my hands on when I've run out and forgot to put it on the Tesco order.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's just so. I know, Abby. You went through. I mean, I was here going through physical pain, but you went through the emotional pain of listening to one of my podcast episodes.
Oh, it wasn't.
Because you were interested in what it sounded like.
Yeah, it was the Trekkie one, I think.
Oh yeah, oh that's right. Was it with Sean? Was it Sean Ferry? I can't remember which one I did.
No, there was a lady as well, wasn't there?
Oh no, it was with Katie Nicolau,
yeah,
the meteorologist. Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, so and it was just hilarious that you said, oh, actually that sounds quite fun.
Yeah.
And so now I'm sitting.
And now I'm here.
Yeah.
Idiot.
So folks, I've got my portable, my dictaphone podcast on my chest.
It's going well so far.
Yeah, so far so good. Yeah. And so every little, if you can hear, you should be able to pick it up. But every little double beep you hear is an electrical pulse being sent through the needle to the base. So I'm going to see if I can remember this, and then Abby will correct me. Because let's see if your induction,
my consultation stands solid.
So a needle gets inserted kind of next to or around a hair and the follicle to the base of it, and then the double beep is a double basically electric shock, which fries the base of the hair follicle, which basically severs the nerves or something like that, and then you pull the hair out with tweezers.
Oh my god!
How close am I, or how far away am I?
Well, we do need to train you up properly, I think.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to tell you the proper?
Yeah, folks, because it's interesting.
So you insert the needle, which is essentially a piece of metal, thin metal, the size of a hair, into the hair follicle, down to the base of the hair follicle, and then you release a high frequency, and in this case, shortwave diathermy current that cauterizes or desiccates the base of the follicle and the microcirculation. So you're destroying the follicle's ability to produce a hair, but at the same time, we can then lift the hair out without traction. So electrolysis kind of scream in horror when people say pull the hair out, because we're lifting them out, and you generally shouldn't feel them coming out at all. So that's how you get your clearance.
Yeah. No, thanks. Well, so I got maybe like a
no
C,
nerve
a C
severing.
plus.
Well, I'm
C
thinking
minus.
maybe a minus to a D, because there's no nerve severing going on at all.
Well,
so your ability to move your face and talk and not drool is still intact.
In all fairness, I mean that makes kind of sense, because where I feel pain, folks, is not at all when it comes to like having the hair removed or anything like that. It's kind of, I suppose, the shock itself is what I feel.
Yeah,
I don't actually feel the needle going in, and it's the sensation of the hair coming out is actually very.
Yeah, it must be quite good. I think.
It's very minor, actually. Yeah, so that's what you can hear. So we'll come back. We'll try and make the geographical links to, why people undergo this treatment. Why the hell am I subjecting myself to this masochistic process?
Yeah.
But
roll your head right over towards me.
And
a wee bit more if you can.
Yeah. You'll hear Abby giving me instructions and stuff like that, which will probably sound familiar to the dentist. Like move your head, tilt it this way. Stop backing away from me.
Yeah, don't run away.
So let's see if we can stick to the podcast scheme as much as we can. So we're in a little village. I mean, your location is public, isn't it? Because of your so I can mention it. So we're in a little village in Cambridgeshire called Yelling. It's not too far from Cambridge itself. What are we, about 15 minutes from Cambridge?
No, an extremely good day.
Well, an extremely good day with 15 minutes from Cambridge.
About 20 maybe. 20, 25.
But it's quite a rural area. You definitely would consider yourself as rural Cambridgeshire, I guess.
I think so, yeah. I mean, we're under Huntingdonshire.
Oh, Huntingdonshire, yeah.
Yeah, we are under Huntingdonshire, yeah. So we're a bit weird, really. Come under lots of guises.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Huntingdon District Council, but we're kind of, are we southeast Cambridge? Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
See, that's where my geography is absolutely rubbish, so I really don't know why you're podcasting me, because I'm useless.
No, it's... Because we know that county, obviously county lines and district lines are quite firm on a map, but when it comes to living and experiences, they do seem a bit blurred. I mean, like, for example, where I live, in the Waveney Valley in the Norfolk-Suffolk area, I might be under South Norfolk District Council, but, there's a lot of dealings with West Suffolk Council, and then we're not too far away from things like, I think it's Broadland Council and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of who are we actually talking to and who do we need to... And, of course, we've now got this thing where geographically used to be really interesting, is that we're having because it's an election year, 2024, we're having our constituency changed. So we're not going to be in South Norfolk constituency anymore. We're going to be a new constituency called Waveney Valley.
Wow.
So
you roll your head away from me.
Yeah.
And then just a wee bit more roll it away. That's great.
And that makes sense in a way, because the communities of where I am, they are more of a Waveney Valley community. There's where I'm from is, we relate more to the folks across the border in Suffolk than we do, say, to the folks just south of Norwich, because that is about half an hour away, whereas the folks in West Suffolk are 5 minutes away. Yeah,
it's a bit bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. So, have you lived in this area all your life, or have you come from somewhere else?
Oh, God. Right, okay. So, I was born in Herefordshire. I could have been Welsh at one time.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, but I wasn't. Born in a little town that nobody knows. And then all of your poddies will probably know it. Lempster. Or Leominster, if you want to say it how it's spelt. And then moved to the Midlands to train as a beauty therapist, and then started with the Open University, met my husband at Keele University, moved up to Lancashire where he lived for a few years, and then I think when my daughter was 2, so she's now 19, so do the math, we moved to Great Paxton near St Neots, and we've been here ever since.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a bit transient and a bit nomadic, but I'm now settled.
So, that you say, what am I doing in your podcast, Kit? But that in yourself makes you, by life experience, a geographer, because you have got all these different experiences of quite contrasting places of the country, really.
Yeah, and it is a little bit, not that it's geography, but maybe the geography of language too is, you try buying a simple bread roll in Clitheroe in Lancashire, it becomes quite traumatic because there's a fair few words for the same thing. If you want a bread roll, you might want to ask for a barm cake, tea cake, bap.
Right.
And when you're a poor soft southerner and you just want a bread roll with some butter on and you don't know the language of the north, it gets a bit tricky. But I guess I've travelled quite a bit, really.
That's come up quite a lot with my chats in other podcast guests, is like the geography of language and accent and culture through language.
Yes.
And we had a little I think it was with I was speaking to Bob Digby, who's a big name in the geography teacher community, and I think we were having a bit of a jibe and a joke about how you have your cream tea, because he lives kind of like near the Devon-Cornwall border.
I have no idea, and I always forget how you're meant to do it and where you're meant to do it. So I would probably be heckled out of the county.
Whatever tastes the best, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
But Yeah, so and you've given a really good example of like difference, and I'm wondering whether that's the banter between Northerners and Southerners. Is that the Southerners seem a bit common and a bit stale, and whereas the Northerners are like more rich and they're more vibrant and but I
don't know.
it's all obviously nonsense, but
Yeah, but I mean, even moving here, I firkle around in my handbag quite a lot, and I firkle around for things when I can't find them. And my
that's
friend,
a word I haven't heard before.
yeah, I know. And my friends here wondered what the hell I was talking about and whether it was something dodgy. So I did ask my mum, who is from London, whether she firkles, and she said, of course I firkle. She said, I firkle around for everything, always. She said, because I'm 85 and I'm losing my mind. So it's come from her, but she doesn't know where that came from.
How interesting.
But yeah, as a family, we firkle around for things.
Yeah, so is it the same as faffing? Or is it different?
Well, firkling for me is when you are literally hunting around, say, in your handbag for the item that you require that is being rather elusive.
Oh, okay, right.
So it's more about trying to find something that you want or need at that moment. Yeah. So
what a good word.
Never occurred to me that firkling could be something dodgy. Yeah. And I don't even know if it's in the English dictionary or not. But
it's common enough. But that's actually that makes sense, because that sounds like that's a word that's actually got a niche, because faffing doesn't quite cut it and rummaging doesn't quite. It's almost an overlap between rummaging and faffing.
Yeah, I think so. Well, you're faffing around firkling. I do a lot of faffing around firkling.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So, a question I always like to ask Abby, and it's a tricky one, and people go at it in their own way.
Okay.
So there's no set way of answering this, but what I always like to ask is that, especially when people have moved around a bit like you have, is how that's kind of like formed their identity. And you've already given an example with language.
Yeah.
So like, even though you now live in this part, in the east of England, is there any part of you that's still like Herefordshire, in your soul, or anything you've brought back from Lancashire?
Gosh. Okay. I think it's got to do with age and stage of life and experience as well. So I feel most at home here. I think my roots are settled here.
Right.
So I love Cambridgeshire, and I love this house, and I love this village.
It's beautiful. You've got a beautiful setup here.
It is, yeah. But do I have an affinity to Herefordshire? I think most of my family, none of my family live in Herefordshire now, bar my mum, who still lives in Leominster. And I don't know, Leominster's changed so much that my only connection is my mum, really.
Right.
And I guess when that time comes, maybe I won't have a connection to it anymore. I don't know, but it will always be. I guess my soul will be there from my childhood, and I'll have all those sort of wonderful memories of being brought up in Leominster, sort of on the outskirts. So there'll always be that connection, but there'd be no reason for me to want to go back. I feel more comfortable here, I think. I can access everything. You can go to London, you can go up north, you could go to the coast. So I feel like this is a really great place to be in, where you can have the best of everything, but I can also just shut myself off in Abbey World and hide in my comfortable little home.
Yeah.
Really.
Have you always been? Because when you listed all those locations, you say your mum's from London, but you sound like you're very more of someone from the boonies, from rural areas.
Well, it's funny because when I was a child, my mum was saying that she heard me go, "I'm going for a bath," or something like that. She did exaggerate it slightly, and she was absolutely horrified and thought, I'm going to have to send her to elocution lessons because it's bath, not bath. So I guess that was the Hereford thing. But interestingly, my daughter was born in Clitheroe in Lancashire.
Okay.
And I remember when she was about 1.5 and she went, "No, Mummy, no." And I'm like, Jesus Christ, she's a genius. I'm phoning up Mensa and I'm hopping around the hallway when my husband came home going, "She can read the no stop cube label." And he's going, "No, Abby, no, it means no." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, look, she can read it." And he went, "No, it means no." And I was just like, oh, God, she's turning into a northerner. Yeah, and that's how my mum came to say about me and Bath, But I don't know. I don't know whether I don't know what my accent is. It changes. I think. I mean, every place I've gone to, I developed a really bad Birmingham sort of Midland accent when I moved up to Lancashire, and then when I came to Cambridgeshire, I developed a really bad Northern accent, as you can tell. So God knows what will happen if I leave Cambridgeshire. I don't know.
There's so many parallels with my experience. Like, first of all, where I'm from in the Harlow and Essex, I don't have really any links there anymore.
No.
And a lot of my childhood was, I had a good, decent childhood, but there was a lot of trauma, from it as well. And so the only time I ever kind of say or ever joke with like saying things like, "Oh yeah, I'm such an Essex girl" or something like that is completely in jibe and in banter. It's like, especially when I'm hanging out with friends who are originally from Essex themselves, or you're just joking about being like life of the party or something like that. And we know it's not unique to Essex or anything like that, or that we're it's only people from Essex who are hedonistic and stuff like that. It's not it's not the case at all. But so you play on that joke. But in terms of the stereotype bantering of being from that part of the country, which is obviously completely a false stereotype, I don't really have any connection back there.
No. So where do you think you're settled?
Oh, I'm definitely now East Anglia, Norfolk. So because it was where I started to find my identity, was particularly in Norwich.
Yeah.
And folks listening to I won't go over this again because I know folks in the podcast have heard it before, and I've told you. I've actually told you as well. But and of course, as the thing is that, and I don't know whether podcast listeners have actually picked up on it, whether my voice is any different from say the first or second season, because this is now season 4. But my voice is going to change as well as I continue to go through the transition process, because I'm still on the waiting list for voice therapy to bring my voice in alignment with my gender identity, and I don't know how my accent is going to be then. Am I going to retain any of the kind of North London Essex accent or any of the Norfolk I've picked up, or is it just going to be my pitch and softness that changes? So it's such an interesting.
Well, it'll be very exciting to hear it change, and you'll have to. Well, you've got your podcast, so you'll be able to hear yourself. You've got a record of how your voice has changed. I guess I should have recorded my voice as it changed from. No, maybe I shouldn't have. Nobody wants to hear how bad my. Well, you've already heard how bad my Lancashire accent is.
But our voices, and it makes a good point actually that I've just thought of, is that we've already talked about it, but voice and language is actually a good measure of geography, because and not just of physical geography of like where you're from, but also your personal geography, and the way that my voice has changed and my voice will change is a measure of personal geography, because it's about how society, because geography also looks into things like societal changes, development, culture, and things like that, and so the fact that I feel the need to change my voice is a product of, society and culture, which is something we study in geography. So, But
do you have a telephone voice too?
Do I have a telephone voice? Yes, I do, because I often get misgendered on the telephone because you can't see me. So when people see me, they can see, the fact that I've got. I don't mind saying it on the podcast, folks. I've got breasts. I've got, I've got long hair. I'm starting to get a more rounder face and softer skin, and and I'm quite feminine in appearance. So when people put visuals to the voice.
It's not quite what.
Yeah, that it's unexpected. It challenges their misconceptions, and their preconceptions. But if they just only hear my voice at this point in time, like 9 times out of 10, it's still "Hello, sir. How can I help you?" or something like that. And
one day.
Yeah, and I know that it on some days are better than others, but some days it can be very dysphoric, and other days I just shrug it off. Just say, "Oh, I'm not male. Just you can call me Kit." So
yeah,
and I like being referred to by my first name anyway. So because I don't really like honorifics, so I think they're a bit outdated.
So I'm not going to call you Lady Kit.
Lady or Dame, or I might settle for Dame one day, but I'll have to earn it.
After all your educational extravaganzas.
Oh.
Yeah.
The climate, energy, and cost of living crises has us all thinking about how we power our homes. If you're looking to switch for any of these reasons, see if one of Octopus Energy's tariffs is right for you. Octopus Energy are not sponsors of this podcast, but they do supply the energy to the house where it is made. If you make an informed choice to join Octopus Energy, use the referral code READFOAL15. That's READ, as in the plant, foal as in a young horse, and the number 15 to split 100 pounds. The split received by us will go directly towards continuing Gia Grambling's education efforts, like paying the subscription to maintain this podcast. If you missed that referral code, check the show notes for a link.
Right, so coming back to what you're doing to my face right now. So far, folks, it's been going okay. So I absolutely lathered on the numbing cream about 2 hours ago, and I managed to get the eco-friendly, biodegradable plastic wrap around my face to stop it from drying out. I look like an absolute muppet, but
it's a look.
But it seems to be working quite well because this is relatively comfortable so far.
Well, let's hope I don't go out the geographical area of where you applied it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about why you have clients come to you, and obviously you're not going to mention any personal information because you've got patient practitioner
GDPR.
confidentiality, GDPR, that kind of stuff. But I know that there are things people will be interested in knowing from a cultural geography point of view.
Gosh, okay.
Why people undergo this procedure. I mean, I've already said my piece about. I can go in a bit more detail about gender dysphoria and things like that, and gender incongruence, which the NHS have diagnosed me with. But yeah, I mean, you must see people for various reasons.
I see all sorts of people. So I guess for me personally, my biggest client base are transgender clients. So I treat gender dysphoria sort of for face and pre-surgery. And a lot of that comes privately or through the NHS. But I also see people with polycystic ovaries. They have a big issue. People with general dysphoria, hereditary conditions, so that could be cultural, genetic, ancestral, hirsutism, it could be due to any hormonal imbalances, perimenopausal, menopausal ladies. So there's all sorts of reasons, really. Diabetes, although that's quite tricky. So there's lots of reasons why people might need to come and have permanent hair removal, mainly on the face, but quite often on the body as well. Just men, maybe male clients that get skin problems. I seem to be getting more male clients wanting male pattern hair growth removed from the face, sort of under the jawline due to difficulties shaving, maybe their hirsute, they've got too much hair, curls up over shirt sleeves and out of rugby tops and things like that. Okay. And it's becoming more of an issue, possibly a dysphoria for them too. So it's becoming more of an issue now and becoming more common for me to get inquiries about that as well. So all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever had to address this question yourself, but and folks, if you're listening to this, you are, because I used to probably because of internalised transphobia and whatnot, and misogyny, that in the past, that I probably thought this as well. In fact, I did think stuff like this as well, was that when somebody might think, like, well, isn't this all just a vanity project? You know, why should NHS money be spent on stuff like this? What usually do you say to things like that when people say, well, you know, why should we be using NHS money for people to feel they should be shaving?
It's really hard, isn't it? I mean, I can see both sides of the story, but I mean, the NHS was set up, wasn't it, to help people primarily, and to provide a service to the community for free as such, although we pay it through our taxes.
To the point of use,
so to speak. And that's incredible. If the easiest one is the pre-surgery, and that's the easiest one to answer. So pre-surgery is down below, so that you can change the genitalia, and that's actually essential work, because if they operate on you and you have hairs growing inside the cavity, then that results in more operations, and that can result in tissue failure.
Wow.
So there's the reason why they offer it for free, because it's life-saving because of dysphoria.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had clients that have tried to self-mutilate themselves out of desperation. So it is life-saving, but also it's saving money in the long term. I mean, surgeons can do what's called follicular scraping, so they can remove the follicles that way, but it's not guaranteed or 100%, whereas electrolysis is. So that's that one. That's easy for me to justify. And it is hard because I guess I'm submerged into this world of transgender issues and concerns. So I am much more empathetic about it than some people might be. The face is a trickier one. Well, facial hair isn't considered feminine, I guess.
At least in Western
cultures, yeah, absolutely. And so you're meant to conform to the ideal of what a woman is and what a woman looks like. Less so now, I think. I think in the past it's been a lot trickier. A woman wears a dress and that's what you're meant to. I mean, a lot of trans clients are more women, if you go by that, than cis women are, because, you know, I 100% of my life is in trousers. I've not touched a dress. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite interesting how it is. But yeah, facial hair is not acceptable among a lot of women, Western women. It's not. I mean, I have a lot of Asian clients too that hate the hair growth they've got, but it's ancestral, genetic, it's cultural, and a lot of people accept it. But if you've got gender dysphoria, again, I guess that could be life-threatening too. Yeah. You know, I have clients that literally are hacking away at their faces, plucking all those hairs out, and you can imagine the hundreds and hundreds of hairs that I take out in a 2-hour session. And it doesn't impact initially until you get that kind of clearance, that permanent clearance evolving. So there are millions of hairs there. Can you imagine trying to pluck all of those out? In a session. So it is difficult, but I think it's important. And, you know, you pay your taxes, you pay your national insurance, you're entitled to feel happy. You know, we could say the same thing about alcoholics that damage their livers, couldn't we? You know, why should they have a liver transplant? Or a smoker, why should they have a lung transplant when they've done that to themselves? And, you know, you don't do gender dysphoria to yourself.
No, you certainly don't. Yeah.
So in some ways, if you look at it from that point of view, maybe it's more worthy. I don't know. So there's, if we're going to pick holes in why somebody should have electrolysis on the NHS and not something else, or I think the tricky thing for me is that a lot of my polycystic ovary clients, they cannot get treatment on the NHS for hair removal, except in very, very rare cases. And so that's a tricky one, I think. And it's not fair.
No, it's not.
But it is what it is. But things move forward and evolve and change, and there's no point getting het up in these things. It's trying to change things positively in a positive way and move towards that equality, I guess, where everybody can receive what they need. But poor old NHS is struggling, and it's trying to do its best for everybody under really difficult conditions, and there are always going to be people that lose out at certain times because of it, and it's not fair, but it's the reality of how it is at the moment.
Oh, it totally is, and I think what you've highlighted here is just one of just so many examples of how, for example, like trans women and cisgender women have a common fight.
They do have a common fight,
and it's actually more. It's more often that cis and trans women have things they commonly fight for than not, and so the current moral panic which is being drummed up, it's complete false narrative and almost nationwide gaslighting to say that they're in, an opposite trans and cis. Right. It's just unfathomable to me, really.
I think there's a lot of parallels and a lot of things that everybody could empathise with other people about. I think it's just certain parts of society that like to cause ructions and problems. And I was reading something. Was Asian? He might have been a black person that went to talk with somebody that was part of the Ku Klux Klan. And he actually, after making friends with him, just through talking and building a relationship, he came away from that Ku Klux Klan, and he's managed to get a large number of members to leave because they realise that that false concept that they've been brought up with is false, and so talking, I guess, is a really great thing. It might take time and people can be impatient, but you do have to talk and understand your commonalities, I think, and that you do have a connection and a kindredness, with different situations and problems, and that you can empathise with that.
Yeah, and the people listening to this podcast know that I'm trans, but in a good sense. And I mean this because I know that they feel genuine about this. They really couldn't give a monkeys because they're here for the geography, but because they're here for the geography as well, they're interested in my identity from a geographical point of view, because we're geographers, because we love the fact that the world is so diverse and the world physically and human wise. So, I don't.
But if you want to talk about geography, so for me, the concern I have is that I'm the only NHS electrolysist. I mean, my clients come from Norfolk because there isn't an NHS electrolysist, there. So I have to be able to provide that service for a wide geographical area. And that's really difficult because there are some incredible electrolysists, I'm sure, out there in Norfolk. Well, I know there are, but they're just not NHS at the moment,
they're not accessible.
They're not accessible. So people travel great distances. I have people that take a train, take a bus, then walk, from Papworth, which is a 10-minute drive away, so 20-30 minute walk.
Oh wow!
The geography of trying to get here to get that treatment is incredible.
That's a good point. I can't believe. Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that up, because I remember when I was given the list of NHS providers. And I was
cry?
I was like, well, this also plays into kind of like certain privileges. The fact that I can drive.
Yes.
And not only I can drive, but because I've got an electric car, it's relatively cheap for me to drive as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember looking at a list and thinking, crikey, the closest one I've got is, I think it was yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it was Billericay in Essex was one as well.
That sounds like it should be on the other side of the world.
Yeah, and I think the other one was Peterborough.
Yeah.
I think they were the three closest. So, of course, the whole of Norfolk the whole of Suffolk and North Essex are not served.
No.
You know, and
they are served. They're served by me and a couple of other people that don't even live in that area geographically.
Correct. So there's no local provider.
There's no local provision.
But they're served by yourself.
Yeah.
And this circles back to when we had the census in 2021, like the first ever time, and it was an optional field of being asked about your sexual orientation or your gender identity. Because
I remember somebody saying about that.
Because perhaps one of the reasons why we have this situation is because there is just no official data of where trans people and where gender non-conforming or LGBTQ individuals live. So the services are not spread out appropriately. Yeah. The fact that my nearest gender identity clinic was Nottingham, but they've opened up like a sub-office, if you like, in Cambridge. Yeah. There's still none in Norwich or Ipswich or something like that where you would expect they would put one.
No, and I guess they aim for centralised areas, and some people live next door and some people have to travel.
A postcode lottery. So folks, when I think circling back to what we were initially saying about why do people come on electrolysis and things like that is, I don't sit on an NHS waiting list for 3.5, 4 years, and some people I know, bless them, are on the wait list longer, to have my face pricked, which can be quite painful.
Yeah. Well, it's not just quite painful, it's really horrible sometimes.
And I got, it's not just that, it's also not, I can't shave for 48 hours beforehand. So that obviously leads to dysphoria, but you have the comfort of knowing that you're doing it for a reason. And then your face looks like a puffer fish for like a day or two afterwards. I don't go through this thing because of a trend or for a fun or because I just fancy changing from male to female. I don't do that.
It's because you have to. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's because of... So whenever people say, I need this treatment, and other people may think it's an act of vanity.
But you have that...
just bear that in mind.
Yeah, and you have that empathy from my non-trans clients too. They say, my God, your clients are here for 2 hours having electrolysis. I can only do 5 minutes. And I say to them, but your need to have that 5 minutes of treatment, because that's all you need, your ability to get through that 5 minutes, just multiply that. It's the same for those trans clients that have that need. They can sit through that treatment for 2 hours, suffering through the treatment. And it's proportionally, it's the same suffering that you're having. So there's another affinity there too. And actually you can see the ability of my trans clients to sit for 2 hours having electrolysis diminish as they get towards the end of their treatment, because ultimately they don't need that. So their ability to cope with it, and even they look back and go, how did I do that? Yeah. Well, it's pure willpower and the pure desperate need to have it done. It's not a choice. It's, if it was a choice, you'd be like, oh, this hurts a bit, I won't bother.
Yeah, I'll just put up with shaving.
Yeah,
but there's two things to say about it. One is that, that person's 5 minutes can feel like 2 hours to them. Yeah. So there's the empathy there. And the second thing is, I think people have already established by now, Abigail, that you're a wonderful human being, and the fact, although it's a pain in the backside to travel an hour and a half to get here, you yourself are worth it.
Thanks. Yeah, you sure? So, I don't know if all my clients would say that. The inane wittering that comes out of my mouth is.
No, it's always been. I may not look forward to the treatment itself, but what makes it a lot easier, and this is so important, when it comes to healthcare and stuff like that, is the professionalism and the personability. Is the fact that it's you doing the treatment, it makes the journey worthwhile, and so I just want to thank you for that.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm glad you trust me enough to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to. I'm forced to trust you.
You don't have a choice. Oh.
Hey, educators! If you teach any geography, environmental or human or physical science-based topics, then check out Kit Marie Rackley's website at geogramblings.com. There you will find musings, blogs, resources, analyses, and more. Perhaps you want to brush up, learn, or dig deeper into a geographical issue, or you're looking for a resource you can use in the classroom. Or maybe looking for someone with an award-winning, diverse expertise and skill set to collaborate with you on a project. Kit Marie offers free 30-minute friendly consultations if you're looking to brainstorm ideas. Jog on to geogramlings.com to explore and find out more.
Let's move on to a bit of fun now.
Okay.
And let's see if I can... Yeah, I've got it. So, folks, what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to attempt to do one of the podcast games.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got... so we're going to do Barking Up the Wrong Tree, which is where we...
Oh, God, I do that all the time.
which is where I give two stories and you've got to figure out which one is false.
Okay.
So I've got two things here to read out.
I'm so
trying
gullible.
to hide the paper from you. So
I can't look anyway. I'm looking at your face.
Of course you are, yeah,
I
of course.
can't. If I'm professional,
Right.
I won't be looking at it.
Okay. And just to let you know, folks, Abby doesn't mind anything, as long as it's within reason, for folks to take their mind off their electrolysis. So listening to podcasts, or maybe even if I don't know if you've ever have you ever had anybody read a book like this?
I have one of my clients. We have a podcast book, so
Okay, so audiobooks,
so we
yeah.
listen to that, which I really look forward to. Yeah.
There you go.
So
Yeah. So Abby's quite open for people to distract. So I'm holding this piece of paper.
I promise I won't look.
Right. So there's two stories here, and one of them is false and one of them is true. So and they're both about facial hair, right?
Oh gosh. Okay.
Okay.
Is this going to mean that I'm a useless electrolysist? If
No,
I don't know the answer?
if you know the answer to this, then you go above and beyond. Right, here's the first one. So, this is about Alexander the Great,
Okay.
and apparently the reign of beers in Greek ended apparently in September 331 BC because there was a showdown between the Greeks and the Persian emperor for control of Asia. Right. So on that day, he ordered his men to shave. So, and actually, the reason why they said he needs to do this is because, well, don't you know that in battles there's nothing handler to grasp than a beard, right?
Oh.
So that's what some historians have said. So stories of beard pulling in battles were myth rather than history, but the real reason why Alexander said everyone should shave their face is because he wanted to liken himself to the demigod Hercules.
Okay.
So, which is, and a lot of Hercules rendered in paint and sculpture shows him youthful, beardless, nude. And Alexander wished above all, as he's told his generals before the battle, that each man would see himself as a crucial part of the mission, and embodying basically this demigod of Hercules, and then that will kind of like give them a mental boost that they're unbeatable and whatnot. And they'll look like a heroic commander, all that kind
I'm
of stuff.
sure he had a beard. But
Right.
anyway, maybe he did.
So that's the first one. So is that true? The second one is from the United States. So
The Americans again.
Americans again, yeah. So facial hair controversies have arisen in the highest court of the US land, so the US Supreme Court. Now in 1976, there was a Kelly versus Johnson Supreme Court case, which upheld an employer's authority to dictate grooming standards for their employees, right?
Ooh.
So in this case, policemen of Suffolk County, New York, no relation to Suffolk, East Anglia, had taken issue with the workplace standard that barred them from growing beards below their collars or facial hair. Growing hair below their collars or facial hair, except for neatly trimmed moustaches that didn't extend onto the lip, right? So this court case failed, so the police were allowed to force this grooming regulation on their officers. Okay. And it continued. So more than a dozen years after, in 1992, Massachusetts police force officers pushed back on this, went to court, but they lost as well.
Gosh.
So it's been enforced for decades and decades. It's never been rescinded. It's never been
So that makes
challenged
that
since.
trickier.
But employers have largely pulled back from stringent regulations, at least informally. So you will see police officers with facial hair, but
they shouldn't really.
The legislation is still in place that they should be groomed, but they don't really bother anymore. It's one of those old regulations where they say, it's not actually important. So which one of those two do you think is true?
God. Well, okay, so I got a D in history. So
good start.
Yeah. Hercules. I don't think he was clean shaven.
Right.
God, I'm sure he wasn't, but I could be thinking about somebody else.
Yeah, you could be thinking of the Disney, Disney movie myth where he's clean shaven.
Yeah. Hercules. Okay. And do the Americans care about? I mean, only in the forces where you have to have a buzz cut.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, Kit, please. Oh, the shame on me. I'm purely gonna go with. I'm gonna be shocked if I'm wrong. Oh no, so Hercules is hairy. So that's the one that's the lie for me.
Okay.
Because he's hairy.
I can edit. Yeah, so the true story is the one about the American police officers in New York and Massachusetts. Yeah, that they were. It was actually regulations and legislation to say they must be neatly groomed and neatly trimmed.
Gosh.
And that legislation's never really gone away, but it's not really been enforced.
So they could still be pulled up on it.
Yeah, they could still be put if you had to. But yeah, the
Wow.
the Alexander the Great one is basically the fact that, so we know that he did ask his generals and his army to kind of shave, but they don't really know why they did that. So the theory is, so it might be because beards are easy to grab during battle.
Could be.
But
whiplash.
Yeah, but but no was, but this thing about shaving to look like, epitome of youth and strength, like Hercules. Yeah, Hercules was clean shaven in a few things, but he was, but he was seen with hair a few times. So so anyone who claims that it was definitely because of the hair pulling, or definitely because to emulate Hercules, there's no evidence to suggest either one. So that one's the false story. That was the myth. That one's still out for debate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go, folks.
Wow. Okay. So I failed abysmally at both of those.
Well, in all fairness, this is a geography podcast, not history. So you can be forgiven.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well, anyway, history is just past geography, old geography.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't do so great in geography. I think I got a C in geography.
That's okay. It's good. We'll have that. Right. Okay. So there's just a couple of things to finish off with now. Can't believe we've got through. We're probably getting close to the 5 minutes to the hour beat.
Oh, well, you've got 10 minutes to go for your first hour.
Oh,
are we doing 2 hours, or are we just doing an hour today?
We're doing 2 hours, But the podcast is coming to an end now, folks. So next thing for Abby to do is the We Are All Geographers to link back to our previous guest.
Oh my God, okay.
So last episode we had the wonderful Ian Kelman, the author and professor of disaster management, who is quite famous in the geography teacher world because his book Disaster by Choice is used by quite a lot of teachers to help teach about natural hazards and how it impacts human life. And he was given the word or the phrase DNA by the previous guest.
DNA.
And he was quite clever by how he approached that. He didn't do DNA as in the
DNA.
The chemical in your body. He actually did something that DNA stood for in geographical things. Ooh. Folks, you'll have to listen back. So, but for you, Abby, he's given the word rictus, which is...
Rictus? Oh, God, rictus, that's why I have to know what
RICTUS. Now, actually, this is very appropriate for you in the job that you do.
Okay.
So I looked up the definition online. Yeah. And this is what it is. So this will help you a lot.
Okay.
A rictus is a frozen or fake smile. So, for example, if the star of a play finds themselves overcome by stage fright, they might forget their lines and stand trembling with their mouth twisted in a rictus smile. Right. The word rictus often describes a smile that doesn't convey delight or happiness. Instead, it's a kind of maybe horrified, involuntary or painful grin. Oh, wow. Which is actually quite appropriate for electrolysis.
Yeah. And so what do I have to do?
So for 30 seconds, Abby, it's basically just ramble or riffle
about rictus.
About rictus.
I'm going to circle around in my head.
Circle, that's the word, yeah.
I'm going to circle around in my head for 30 seconds.
And it could be anything you like about maybe... You've seen so many elements of rictus because of people,
Yeah.
Are you really smiling? No, you're in pain, aren't you?
You're in pain, yeah. It's, okay, well, hopefully I'll get the definition right. I might go off track. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, people do grimace. It's that trembly grimace of panic when you don't quite... Us British are very good at rictus smiles, I think.
Oh, yeah,
aren't we? That stiff upper lip, rictus, and we smile inappropriately in very nervous situations when... we're a bit scared as well, I guess. So I get a lot of smiles that come through my door. they don't really know who I am or how I'm going to react, and they're very vulnerable. A lot of my trans clients are very vulnerable and come in with a rictus smile, trying to be brave, and sometimes it crumbles into tears. And maybe not as bad as it could be, because hopefully I give off a nice kind of caring vibe even before the client arrives. But then through the treatment, that rictus smile, while they try and not let their lip and face tremble involuntarily when I electrocute them over 200 times in an hour, trying to get hairs out, and pretend that things are okay.
There you go.
When they're not, maybe.
Well, you did that perfectly. A little bit longer than 30 seconds,
Sorry.
but very well done.
Yeah,
very
okay.
well done.
There we go.
Yeah, no, thank you, Abby. That was brilliant. And it's just so wonderful, isn't it, that a professor of disaster management has just been linked to electrolysis treatment. So there you go. Right. But you get the pleasure now of a word for the next guest to have a crack at.
Gosh, okay. Anything?
Yeah, anything you like.
Anything. Can it be as random as random?
Absolutely.
Well, Rictus was pretty darn random.
It was.
Gosh, okay. So maybe something career orientated.
Yep.
Find a word. Electrocautery is what comes to my mind. That's all I can think of. My mind is smiling rictusly. Electrocautery, rabbit in headlights.
Electrocautery.
Yeah,
right.
There you go. That's the word. Sorry.
No, okay, brilliant.
Person.
So the next person, electrocautery. You're gonna come up with something. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Right. So
I apologise now.
And so last couple of things then. Is there anyone you'd like to say hello to or give a shout out to?
Who would I like? All my trans clients. Well, not just all my trans clients. All my clients I'd say hello to and hope they're okay, and apologise for all the pain I put you through, but know that I love you all. And that I'm very honoured that people come to me to have this and trust me. Hello to all of them, really, because I wouldn't be here doing this job without you.
Oh, bless. And I guess the best way for people to, if they're interested in, private treatment or anything like that, or connect with you, I guess they can search for Abigail Best Electrolysis.
Yeah, they can.
And beauty therapy. But is there any other way officially people get hold of you?
Facebook. So via that. Sadly, my books are temporarily closed, and that's the state of the situation. There's so few electrolysis that do trans hair removal because they're long sessions, but also for pre-surgery, there's even less electrolysis for pre-surgery, and the load is so heavy that my books are now closed temporarily anyway, but they open and close as people roll on and roll off their treatments, so to speak. But so just through Facebook and social media, I'm lurking around everywhere, really.
Oh well, we have another hour-ish to go after this, so I'll continue the chat with you. But for the podcast, Abigail, I just want to say this has actually been quite fun.
Thank you.
And it's
I'm not as clever as a lot of your
don't
people,
be silly.
so
you are
hopefully I'm not boring.
Highly talented in your own way, and
thanks.
It's actually really helped the time fly for the last hour.
Good,
so.
Good, yeah.
Good for me.
We're halfway through. Glass half full. We're halfway through and counting down.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for contributing to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you had fun. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast and give us a rave review. Make sure you share and rate each episode, as every time you do this, it helps more people find us and continues the conversation. If you fancy being a guest or have any feedback, follow us on Twitter at coffeegeogpod and send us a DM. Or you can email us at coffeegeogpod@geogramblings.com. Until next time, keep jogging.